Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It is Thursday night, which means it is time for the Championship Check-In podcast, talking about the most recent events in the greatest league, the most chaotic, bonkers league in world football. We don't need games for there to be storylines. Another two firings, Sam. We've now had 9 clubs change managers in this first half of the season. We'll no doubt get into that very, very quickly. But first of all, it would be rude of me to not ask, how are you, Sam Parkin?
I'm really good, mate. Really good. Had a busy week, but looking forward to this as ever. And yeah, just still reliving those gems from last weekend. Toughest competition of the season, some may say, or maybe the most straightforward decision. You'll have to wait 5 minutes for that decision to be made. What a few goals we saw. Oh,
let's get right in there then, Sam. And it's a predictable one, but here comes Parkin's pick. I've got so many questions here, Sam. So, look, we're obviously going to talk about Monday night specifically. 2 managers sacked. Tony Mowbray out of Sunderland, Mike Duff out of Swansea. I've been teeing up for years. October international break that's the time. If not, November, you're looking at the next transfer window. 2 clubs wait until after November international break, 3-game week, and then pulling the trigger on their managers on the Monday night. Just crazy stuff. Quick one-word answer. Which one surprised you the most, Duff or Mowbray?
Mowbray.
Let's talk about Mowbray. Why do you think Sunderland would get rid of Tony Mowbray, a manager that landed them in the playoffs the year after promotion?
You know why. We all know why.
You better tell us then, Sam.
Well, this could leave me with huge amounts of egg on my grid. My son had his first fried egg this morning. I don't know why I've kept them away from him for so long, but he thoroughly enjoyed it in the greasy spoon. Because they're going to appoint someone younger that's going to play gegenpressing football. That's not even a word, is it? But you know what I mean. It feels very Danny Roll, doesn't it? If he wasn't in at Sheffield Wednesday. I think, Sunderland are doing things differently, aren't they? They have been over the course of the last 12 months, maybe longer. And I don't think it's probably in keeping with the profile of manager they've currently got in the job. And that's not to say that he deserves a lot of respect for what he did last year for being adaptable, I suppose, and putting together that wonderfully gifted side. Wonderful team to watch at the back end of last season, despite obviously having difficulty fielding a striker at any stage of the last 3 months, and kind of followed him into this season. But I think that's some of his own doing, some of his own want. I don't think he's fancied any of the strikers as such so far this season. That's been to their detriment because they can't score goals, the front men. They were quite reliant, I suppose, on Diallo last season to give them that sprinkling of gold dust, and he chipped in with so many important goals and so many important performances. Ross Stewart maybe less so because you didn't have him for large parts. But I think there's been signs, hasn't there, the last few weeks? Some of the noises coming out of Sunderland have suggested that they may be on the cusp of changing. I thought Tony Mowbray's demeanour suggested as much. And I think he said a few things which, if he was younger and maybe, not so long in the tooth, he might have regretted. I think at this stage of his career, if it's not aligned with the club, then I think he's so experienced, so battle hardened to it. He's going to be honest. And maybe that's to his detriment here. And you're far too logical, Ben. I enjoyed the Manic Monday. Wielding of the axe. So listen, it's harsh in some manner, but I wasn't overly surprised by either of these dismissals.
Now, the other one, I owe you a pat on the back for this one, because you've said from the word go that something didn't quite meet the smell test with Mike Duff and Swansea, the owners. You got 3 things, haven't you? You got the fans, you got the ownership, and the manager, and it never quite got together, Sam. And other than that 4-game win streak, if you actually take that out, which I know is not entirely reasonable to do, but if you take that out, it's been pretty much relegation form, bad relegation form, in fact, for Swansea for the most part. So you're less surprised by this one?
Yeah, and probably owe a little apology to the chap who asked us the question, not an apology as such, but we were asked whether it was must win against Huddersfield. Funny that Huddersfield have done for Mowbray and Duff, essentially, haven't they? I think, the hierarchy would have looked at that result at Sunderland, and obviously they've left it for the Millwall game. I thought the Jack Clark penalty possibly was going to save his job, Tony Mowbray, but not to be. But with Duff, failing to beat Huddersfield at home, 1 win in 7. Stats aside, let's look at it. A manager who did brilliantly at Cheltenham. A bit Antonio Conte, wasn't it? 2 really good wing backs at Cheltenham. A system that never deviated. Got loads out of those wire players. Set piece threat, the long throw of Tozer. And then went to Barnsley. Surprised me a little bit in terms of the little alterations he possibly made, but essentially it was still the same style, maybe not as robust and direct. And then handed the keys to, one of the clubs, and I'm a little bit reluctant to say it, but I went to Swansea loads during the kind of 2021 season, 21-22, during the pandemic and the aftermath. I just seemed to find myself as the Welsh correspondent for TalkSport, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But they demand the fans, they voice their opinion if they don't think the football is suitable, is in keeping with what their traditions have been over the last 10, 15 years. And I just was really shocked that they felt Michael Duff was the man to come in. And that is not to say that he hasn't done a brilliant job at 2 clubs. He absolutely has. But I just think that it wasn't a good fit. And you look at the squad in the main, look at the team that he put out at the weekend. I mean, for one, the average height is about 5'4". Incredibly technically gifted players across the piece. And I think that's probably a product of the start to the season, the demand from probably internally and externally to play the type of football that they've played under previous managers. So I think there's been a bit of a shift in the last week or 2, maybe longer, but it's too late because possibly the messages are a little bit mixed when he's been trying to play his style, which is quite a direct, quite a get it wide, hit the strikers type of football. So possibly it's changed latterly, but not quickly enough. And I think more than any dismissal, sacking or whatever in a championship season, the people that make the decisions at Swansea have to be held accountable for this one, because a really talented young manager, completely wrong fit.
100%. And we've now got the spectacle of potentially, because Rotherham still haven't made a hire, we've got 3 caretakers. It's going to be Alan Sheehan at Swansea, Mike Dodds at Sunderland, Wayne Carlisle, I think, is going to continue doing Rotherham. We've actually got Rotherham playing Swansea. That can be the caretaker derby assuming that nothing is done there. So sackings ahoy. We're up to 9. I'm sure we'll get over the 12 for the halfway mark. By the way, if you're watching live, get involved in the comments. Plenty of you having your say. Really, really appreciate this. If you're listening after the fact, we appreciate you too. Come and join us live every Thursday at 8 p.m. And now it's time to lower the tone. We are going to talk cause for concern. So we get a lot of examples, Sams, of teams and they slightly overperform, and we say, oh, they're gonna tail off a little bit, and then they do, and we say we saw that coming. Preston, this is very extreme though, because it was 6 wins from the first 7 games. They've got 9 points in the last 12. So where's the real Preston? How much was it an overperformance? How much is this now an underperformance? What is going on, and why have you made Preston your cause for concern?
Well, I wanted to go in 2-footed after the Middlesbrough defeat last week, which I covered. They were woeful on the night,
Really?
and then they really were in both sides of the game. You know, without the ball, such a lack of intensity, disorganisation. Rodgers for one, you know, that springs to mind straight away. His performance just kind of meandering past players at will. There was a real lack of aggression, which you wouldn't associate with Preston. Certainly, that would be at the forefront of my mind when I think about them last year. That evaporation of the solidity that their success was built on the early part of last campaign when they were just winning 1-0 every week and nobody could score against them for love or money. Where that's gone, I don't know. Sorry, if I can just refer to my notes. They conceded 6 in the first 8 games. I've altered this since the last couple of defeats. They've conceded 26 in the last 11 games. It's no clean sheet in 14 now. So we can forget about that back three and the makeup of that and the wing backs maybe helping, you know, that 3 to make a 5. Their tightness is just completely disintegrated in the last few weeks. And then you add to what they're not producing going the other way, you've got a recipe for absolute disaster. 3 shots in the last 3 games on the target. Don't think they had a shot on target in that Middlesbrough game, just the one against QPR, if memory serves me right. And prior to the Middlesbrough game, they were the most clinical team in the division in terms of the conversion rate. So that shows you they were getting away with it. I think it was it 6 wins in the first 7? I think.
Yeah, so they got 19 points in 7 and they've got 9 in 12. So they've essentially gone from 100-point form to finishing bottom relegation form. And there was only one extreme to the other.
There was only one of those games that was won by more than a solitary goal. So They were very, very even games. They were coming out the right side of. And I just think that I have always felt, because of what Ryan Lowe's team was at Bury and in the early stages at Plymouth Argyle, that he was a very attack-minded manager, former striker. I just haven't seen that. I haven't seen that ever since he's been at the helm at Preston North End. And I think the consensus going into this season was definitely that this was the potentially most expansive team that he's ever put together, or expansive squad with the best attacking players at his disposal. I am just not seeing that. Still problematic on the left-hand side, the wing back, that seems to chop and change. Brad Potts has done a sterling job for him on the right-hand side at times, but I just still don't see that creativity. Frokke Jensen, the player that we talked up at the start of the season, he was really bad in that Middlesbrough game, and Ryan Lowe came out a few weeks ago and it sounds as if he doesn't trust him. So there's him. There's a few other players that have been brought in to add that attacking sparkle. Where is it? I mean, it's nowhere to be seen at the moment. Went to the back 4, didn't they, actually, against QPR? And, you know, when you're thinking ahead to that game on the back of what I'd seen against Middlesbrough, that was a bit of a no-brainer, you know, to get essentially an extra forward player on the pitch. I think it was a 4-2-3-1. And yeah, that's going to give you better passing options. And, you know, it's a little bit more of an attacking formation as such. But I don't think it certainly didn't translate into a better performance. It was desperate.
That's a good question from Lou in the chat there. Loss of Schumacher as the reason you think the attacking output has gone. And he adds there, given how good Plymouth are. Plymouth are really ruthless, aren't they? And I don't like to get too much into these, the assistant did this and the manager did this, but that's a fair point, isn't it, Sam?
I think we'd be foolish to dismiss that out of hand. Yeah. I think very much Stephen Schumacher's mindset is to try and play open football, you know, and try and open up teams, even when you're going up against the big teams. We'll get onto the predictions later, I'm sure, but I'm never backing, you know, Plymouth to be tight and under 2.5 goals or whatever to come in their games. They're going to go and attack every game. So I think we'd be foolish not to look at that. But also, who's doing the recruiting there? Why have they not been able to? If it, you know, predominantly is going to be a 3-5-2, why have they not got the option to play really attacking fullback? The Canadian lad who came in from Charlton, I think on the left-hand side, his name escapes me momentarily. He's been in and out of the side. He was at Charlton on loan from Liverpool. Someone tell me in the comments. But I think he's been brought in to add that attacking flair on the left-hand side. But Ryan Lowe doesn't really trust these players at the moment. So it's a little bit baffling because there's only so long I can watch Preston games and see the seasons play out and think, right, Ryan Lowe's an attacking manager. Ryan Lowe, like beautiful football, likes tricks in the final third. Liam Miller, thank you. You know, how long can I bang that drum? And listen, Ryan Lowe ain't going to care what I think, but that's my opinion. And, you know, hopefully for his sake, they can turn it around because I think they are a bit split down the middle, aren't they?
Very much so. And amazingly, well, no, not necessarily if you understand how league tables tend to progress, still eighth, still a couple of points off the playoffs. But what it does do is a ridiculous start like that does kind of warp what's going to happen next. And, you know, if it's another, say, 5 or 6 games at fewer than a point per game, you're coming up half a season in relegation form, which ain't going to end well. Speaking of all's well that ends well, are you ready for the most predictable segment of Worldie of the Week we're going to have all season? Should we just make this entire segment an apology to Wesley Hoyt, who scores from the halfway line? Absolute worldie of a goal that in any other week of the season would be Worldie of the Week. But I'm going to stand back, Sam. I opened the Blue Monday podcast by suggesting that given how football has progressed and that people in 1981 didn't do things that people do now, I think Wes Burns scored the greatest goal that Ipswich Town have ever scored at the weekend. That is our Worldie of the Week. But just give a shout out to Wesley Hoyt first.
Too much snow on that. Too much snow on it to be, you know, a goal for the ages.
You want a bit flatter, do you?
Yeah, I want it drilled. I want it drilled and kissing the underside of the bar. I mean, it's a beauty. And what made it so glorious in the hours that preceded that goal, that followed that goal, was Valor and Ishmael's shout that they were playing for this on the training ground. They were working towards this eventuality.
Wow.
Which is just sensational. Can you imagine the centre-halves nicking the ball during the 11-a-side on the Friday morning and then just pinging it towards goal because they anticipated the Hull City goalkeeper taking a high starting position? So if they did plan for that eventuality, Valor and Ishmael is the Messiah. That's tremendous. But Wesley Hoyt obviously produced a moment of absolute brilliance. Yeah, I'm only being tongue-in-cheek. It's a great goal and it was a brilliant win for them. But I suppose an amazing goal from Wes Burns. The finish is just sumptuous. The curl on it. I said about Garnacho last week on the podcast. That got me out of my seat and making noises that I rarely make these days.
Stop there.
But my God, it was just I was just praying it went in. It started so wide and obviously arced in beautifully. But I just wanted to say where you are right now and where we are watching this Ipswich team. And listen, I saw them obviously last week and I was wowed. You know, I can't remember being this impressed with a Championship team in recent memories. And of course, there's been bigger clubs maybe with bigger resources that are probably going to accumulate or have accumulated more points than Ipswich will maybe achieve this year. But my goodness me, they are pretty on the eye. And I thought that goal, because it had Chaplin, 15 yards from his own 18-yard box, the position he's been occupying so many times throughout this season. And then the pass, beautiful. Then Leif Davis, of course, massive, massive part of this. And then obviously his involvement. Nice little overlapping run on the right-hand side. I'm not going to get carried away by the move, although I just have done.
There's nothing wrong with the defending, is there? They're doubled up. They do everything right, don't they?
No. And listen, I'll hold my hand up. I get my research from all different mediums, shall we say. And I did see a Coventry supporter say that the goalkeeper was flat-footed. It was the best 5 seconds of my preparation over the start of the week. It was tremendous. No, I mean, the move is great and the move deserves highlighting, but the finish is just terrific. It's the goal of the season, and I've never heard Trivella,
No, me neither.
spoken of until Sunday afternoon. What's a Trivella? Never heard it.
And look, I'm an Ipswich fan. You're an ex-Ipswich player. We must say, if Rotherham had scored this goal, we would be saying exactly the same thing. Just an absolutely sensational goal. Wes Burns is our Worldie of the week, but a huge shout out, obviously, to Wesley Hoyt at the same time. Here we go. It is the meltdown moment. Right, I think you're going to call me out for this one, Sam. We're talking West Brom. I did West Brom Leicester as a watch along. They equalised, and when you can go and look and find the evidence, when they got the attacking throw, I said, "You've got to load up the box here. They've got them on the ropes." So I'm going to hold my hands up. I would have made the same mistake. But Sam, talk to me as a professional. The instructions you get when a game gets stretched in terms of playing with your emotions against playing logically, because if anyone was going to play logically, you'd think it would be Carlos Corberon, but he is our meltdown moment of the week. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, well, for the concession of the winning goal, I think it's fair enough. It's a little bit harsh, possibly scraping the barrel a bit this week, but I was very surprised by the amount of players that went forward, the disjointed nature of their setup behind the ball when they conceded, and to have
best defensive setup in the league. Would you agree, West Brom?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, maybe not in terms of the individual, but their collective
clean sheets.
Yeah. I mean, the two centre halves I think have been absolutely exemplary so far this season, providing a real solid foundation for them. So I was pretty flabbergasted that he was going to win the game, especially because I had 1-1 in the predictor. And I think I had my phone on charge just by the kitchen. It was the early game, wasn't it?
So
I think I was just pottering about, and I just had a little glance and saw that the last minute winner had gone in. So yeah, little bit surprised at that. We were going to go on and talk about the non-handshake.
Yeah.
But supposedly poor old Carlos had a bit of a virus last week, and he hasn't been shaking hands with any of his staff, and he didn't want to shake hands with Enzo Maresca. So we'll have to take him on his word, although I'm sure he was spewing as well.
He's points with us after the last few weeks. So we will take Carlos on his word, Sam.
Yeah. He wasn't spewing at all that Maresca started doing star jumps in his grid when Harry Winks slid home. So, yeah, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I just think, having had a really good few weeks, a 1-1 against potentially a promoted side, a very, very good Championship side in Leicester, you think he maybe would have declared. So he's having it this week. But, it's a little bit through bated breath.
There you go. Right, let's move on. We have looked back at the past week. We're now going to look forward. And Sam, we are in association with our friends at Match Bingo for the remainder of the show. We're going to have a look at my Bingos card in just a minute. First of all, we're going to have a look at the round 19. Sorry, it's round 20, fixtures. We've just done round 19. Remember, we are starting a 3-game week. What I'd love you to do, if you're watching right now in the chat, give us your mouth-watering matchup. Let us know who you're going to nominate for that. Also, while you are there, if you could hit the like button, that would be jolly helpful too. So on the agenda this round, Sam, it's Coventry Birmingham. Come and join me tomorrow night. We're going to do a watch-along of that one. Looking forward to seeing some familiar faces tomorrow night. Blackburn versus Leeds. That stinks of goals. Sunderland versus West Brom with Mike Dodds in caretaker charge. It's Cardiff versus Millwall. Huddersfield versus Bristol City. Leaders, Leicester against Plymouth Argyle. Bit of a juicy one there. Middlesbrough versus Ipswich. Norwich versus Preston North End, our cause for concern. Improving QPR, as Sam has instructed me to call them, versus Hull. The caretaker derby is Rotherham versus Swansea. Stoke versus, if I'm calling QPR improving QPR, I'm going to call Sheffield Wednesday improving Sheffield Wednesday. And it is Watford versus Southampton at the Vic. Let us know what your mouth-watering matchup is. If I can draw your attention, though, on the Match Bingo app, for free, Sam, you don't even have to pay for your card for this, is the Bingol's game, which is the 3 p.m. on Saturday. Here is my card, and you just got to tick them off as you go. Unfortunately, I've got Middlesbrough on there. I don't really want Middlesbrough to be scoring early because they're facing Ipswich. Even more, unfortunately, we've got Plymouth there. They're away at Leicester. What other championships? We've got Millwall at Cardiff. We've got Millwall and Cardiff. So I need both teams to score there. Are you giving me any chance of some of that 275 quid prize pot there, Sam?
Yeah, I fancy Millwall at Cardiff. Plymouth are where? Have you got Plymouth, did you say?
Got Plymouth there. They're away at Leicester. Are they going to score?
No, I'm always backing. I'm always backing Argyle wherever they are to be.
Oh, to get on the score sheet.
Yeah.
So we're going to tick them off as we go on the 3 p.m.s on Saturday, and that is absolutely free to play. We will be playing along on a normal Match Bingo card on the watch along tomorrow night, Coventry versus Birmingham. Thank you to the people at Match Bingo, the fine people there. Go and download the app. And if you really want to do us a solid here on the podcast, tell them we sent you by going via matchbingo.co.uk/BBFC. Right. Let's have a look and see what the mouth-watering matchup is being suggested here. Borough Ipswich, Blackburn Leeds, Borough Ipswich, Blackburn Leeds, Rotherham Swans, Borough Ipswich, Blackburn Leeds. Well, I think our one hasn't been suggested, has it, Sam?
I don't think so, no. I don't think I've seen a mention of either of these teams other than the Perler scored by their big centre-half at the weekend. We are going Watford-Southampton.
Watford-Southampton. I haven't pressed the button. You got to press the button, haven't you, Sam? So Watford versus Southampton. Nobody, well, I say nobody, two teams have scored more points than Southampton in the, two teams have scored more points than Watford in the last, I think, 8 games. And that would be Leeds and Southampton. So we've got two teams in real good form here. I think it helps this game being at the Vic. Southampton are lovely and comfortable on home surroundings, aren't they? I think this is going to be quite tight, Sam. What's your thoughts on how this one's going to play out stylistically?
I'd agree. I would agree that there's not too much to separate, and they're both on brilliant runs. I mean, it's crept up on me a little bit. Watford just the one defeat in 9, and now 3 points behind their opponents from last weekend. So I think people will be starting to think around Vicarage Road that they could maybe creep into that playoff picture this season. I thought they were very good for a half against Hull City away from home, rode their luck a little bit. I didn't see bundles of gilt-edged opportunities that were spurned, but they did concede a lot of shots up in Hull last weekend. But I think it's starting to come together. I think the balance of the team, the continuity, definitely in the midfield, which I thought lacked a little bit of balance and a bit of fight maybe early part of the season. That seems to 100% disappeared now with Livermore, Kone, Kayembe striking up a kind of really nice midfield balance there.
Jump in, Sam. I spoke to a Watford podcast yesterday and Livermore was the name they pointed out actually as the key player. Yeah,
well, you don't play as many games in the Championship to wheel out a stupid cliche, but he gets picked, doesn't he? And, when we saw Valérien Ismaël going into Watford, we all were very, very quick to steam in and say, oh, Livermore, he's not going to be able to get around and do what Valérien Ismaël demanded from his midfield players at Barnsley. But as we all know, this is a reincarnation of Valérien Ismaël and they're playing a lot more football. So he's proved to be a really good signing. The first goal was lovely at the weekend, the combination down the left-hand side, which I think has been a bit of a feature of the last few weeks. Rajvic coming up in the comments there, got those, I think it was a brace, wasn't it, from Sema deliveries a couple of weeks ago. So there's definitely some continuity in some of the patterns we're seeing. And by the way, goal apart, Wesley Hoyt was an absolute colossus at Hull last week. Top for clearances, interceptions, aerial duels, tackles. He was a brick wall. So he's really performing well. I think he was someone that was looked upon as someone that was going to be probably replaceable in the lineup as well. Doing really well. And Hamer in goal, replacing Backman, which was a bit of a shout. And Batman's going to find it really hard to find his way back into that team now. So, yeah, Watford really looking good. Southampton, 11-match unbeaten run. The infancy of this run was that victory over Leeds, which I was at. So if someone had told me that day that this was going to be a humongous turnaround, I wouldn't have believed them, because there were still some deficiencies I felt in their performance and their lineup. But Russell Martin has turned it around, and in a big way.
Sam, can I ask you, I don't quite know how to word this, but is there a sense with Southampton, or is it just Russ Martin teams? Because they don't stamp on people's throats and go, they're more concerned with keeping possession when they've got the lead, that you never actually think they're kind of firing. Is there? I look at Southampton and think, okay, good, all looks good on paper, and then you kind of go, well, they're not really obliterating anyone, and they've got some of the best players in the league. Or is it the style, or is it that? I'm confused. What was your take?
I think that's fair. I think it's a really difficult style to get great consistency from. I think it's easier at the higher level, maybe because there's fewer mistakes and you're talking about the elite of the elite. So I think there's still that tendency. We saw it last night a little bit, with Chelsea and Man United, in that first half, trying to play out at all times, and because they're not maybe fully confident or both teams are missing players, you still see the errors in their way of playing out. So yeah, I think when you go down the divisions, there can be problems, but I think it's been a really good turnaround from them. I think that Russell Martin is proving that he didn't panic, and what they had as well, Ben, I thought was the biggest upheaval of the summer, certainly out of the 3 relegated sides, and I think that was very problematic on the training ground from day to day.
Even including the Leeds takeover?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they lost some big players. I know Leeds lost a lot of players on loan, if memory serves me right. But I thought, they did some good business early days of the season, Leeds. And yeah, I just thought there was question marks over, the start of the season with James Ward-Prowse in the midfield. Lavie didn't go until late. I think there was a number of players that
Nathan Teller scored in it, or deflected one in off Armstrong.
He did. So I just think this is a product of players hard work on the training ground, repetition, and now we're seeing the fruits of their labour. So yeah, it's been a brilliant recovery, because let's get it right, he could have been gone. He could have quite easily been gone had that Leeds game not gone his way. That was the day, wasn't it? That was the day when the Southampton fans were turning up with their knife sharpeners. Is that you know what I mean? They were at the ready, weren't they, to give him a torrent, and they won that game comfortably and they not looked back.
Amen. I'm not sure how soon before. I wonder whether it was actually the midweek. I was there and when Ipswich won, and yeah, it was. It wasn't toxic, but it was getting toxic, and yeah, I totally agree. They've turned it around. We'll get on to what Sam thinks, or how Sam thinks that one's going to play out in the predictions in a minute. But first of all, it is our player to watch. Who are you excited to see lining up in the Championship this weekend, Sam?
Well, I kind of have been bemoaning the lack of good striking options at this particular club. So, step forward, Danny Cadamarteri's son, Bailey.
So I had a look, Sam, because I'm sure you will have played against Danny Cadamarteri. He was up in Scotland, I think, at a similar time to you as well. So, and then I think he might have been at Carlisle when you were at Exeter. I don't know if you're in the same division at that point, but I'm sure you must have. I wonder if you both scored in the same game at some point as well. You must have played against Danny Cadamarteri, but I'm sure we all remember him in the Premier League coming through as a youngster for Everton. But everybody loves a youngster coming through. Everybody loves a second generation player coming through. And Sheffield Wednesday have got one here. And he was on the score sheet against Blackburn last week, Sam.
Yeah, it was a really well taken goal. And it was nice that it was Windass that assisted him, because the old man's played for Bradford together. I thought they may have crossed paths at Sheffield United as well, but they definitely played together at Bradford. So that was a nice, quirk of that victory. Windass got the third in that game, a really well taken goal as well. But I just think it was a nice little facet to this impressive win from Danny Rowe. And yeah, I think it was a pretty even game. They rode their luck. Their XG was just over 1, and they obviously found the net 3 times. So I think
breakaway goal at the end, Sam.
Yeah, and I think Blackburn would have felt that they probably had enough chances to take something. But I like the fact that, yeah, he's been bold and gone with youth. He's probably had a look at what he's got on the training ground and not felt that anyone's really been giving him what he needs, that intensity from the front. I thought the setup was really interesting. So obviously, yeah, great decision to go with him. And then that problem of the midfield, can you get away with playing Bannon in a 2? And I think that's been to their detriment recently. So you see that's been strengthened with Byers and Volks there. Volks was everywhere in this game. So immediately that gives Bannon the platform to be a bit more free-spirited. And then we look at the back 4. Palmer came on after a couple of minutes on the left-hand side due to an injury, I believe. But that, to start, that's 4 centre-halves, which has been on vogue before in professional football, but made stylish again by Pep and various others in the last few years. So I thought that was interesting as well. New manager, had a look at a few things, but the one consistent, fans are on board. Fans are certainly on board, and they're starting to get the results to go with some improved performances. And yeah, I just thought Cadamarteri was worth flagging. Just a new name on the score sheet. Really nice story, considering his old man plied his trade, and I think works across the city now at Sheffield United. So yeah, it ticked a lot of boxes for me, and maybe, just maybe, he's going to be the goal scoring answer.
Be very interested to see how this one pans out. There's always that wonder of, well, how much do you go with a youngster over the experienced players? But if he's going to deliver the goals, he is going to stay in there. Right, everybody, sharpen your pencils. It is predictions time. Make sure you get yours in via the chat. Help me out. I'll put as many on the screen as I can. Help me out by making sure you put teams in as well as score lines, and try and stay on the game we're on. I know some people are watching us on delay if they picked us up late, but that helps us out. Let's get into it, Sam. It is time for the round 20 predictions. Right, we're going to predict all the outcomes of all 12 games, score lines as well in the EFL Championship for round 20, and we will reveal who won the battle from last week at the end of the segment. Sam, do you want to go first or second this week?
Go on, mate. You crack on.
I will crack on, and I will start with Coventry versus Birmingham. My one word for this, Sam, is cagey. I expect this to be a very cagey game, very low margin. So I'm going to go for a single goal, a clean sheet, and a win for the home team. Coventry 1, Birmingham 0. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, although I think it may be slightly more convincing. And you'll know all about Coventry after that defeat at Ipswich, where I think they tried to do a bit of a job, didn't they? One who's not at the moment trying to stop Ipswich by, packing the midfield. Didn't work. Had to change multiple players at half time, but I didn't think it was a disgrace, and I think they'll be too strong for Birmingham here. I will go 2-0.
Crack on, Sam.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic as you on the goal scoring front here. I don't know
Blackburn
why.
v Leeds, by the way.
Blackburn v Leeds. Yeah, after the defeat at Hillsborough last week, I can't not go for Leeds. Obviously, free scoring that win over Middlesbrough. So I will stick to form, but I'm going to go for just the narrowest of victories, 2-1 to Leeds at Blackburn.
Well, I'd better go all in then, being as I went 3-3 last week and forced you into your 3-2 prediction that ended up being correct when it came to Leeds. So I'll go both teams to score. And did you go 2-1 Leeds, Sam?
Yeah.
I don't want to double you up. I'll go 3-1 Leeds. So 2 of those in a row for Blackburn to suffer. Sorry. And we will move on to Sunderland versus West Brom. And I fancy West Brom to take advantage of the manager's situation here, Sam. So am I allowed to steal 1-0 again? No, I did that before. Let's go 2-0. Sunderland 0, West Brom 2, lack of manager, a problem. What do you think?
Well, I had the exact same scoreline written down. I think, West Brom are too good a side, too good a coach not to respond to the disappointment of last week. I don't know if we're in kind of siege mentality territory. I don't think we are we, at the Stadium of Light? Because they're going fine. It's been a difficult period, not enough wins in the last 10 games. That's clear as day. That's partly why Tony Mowbray is no longer their manager, but it's not desperate, is it? So I think a little bit of uncertainty around the place. West Bromwich Albion win. I'll give Sunderland a goal. After your prediction, I will go 1-2 again.
And on to Cardiff Millwall with you, Sam.
Yeah, I think this one stinks of the result I'm going to give you.
I know what you're going to say.
I'm going to go for the 1-1 here. I can't separate them. I think it will be cagey, despite Cardiff having quite a good few attacking weapons in their armoury. That rolled off the tongue nicely. But I think Joe Edwards maybe will be a little bit cagier away from the Den than they were at Ipswich. I thought that he maybe got it wrong. Different challenge ahead this weekend, but I think if they can defend, as we know Millwall are capable of, they will get something from this game. I will go for a 1-1, bit of a turgid affair.
I think I'm going to back Cardiff. I'm not sure I see Millwall in the infancy of Joe Edwards here turning up there and winning. I don't know. I think Ballou and Cardiff might be a bit more streetwise. So I'm going to go Cardiff 2. I'll go for Millwall to score. Cardiff 2, Millwall 1. I'm going to move us on to Huddersfield versus Bristol City, which stinks of Bristol City having 68% possession and not winning the game, doesn't it? So I'll throw in a possession number as well there. 68 to Bristol City on the possession. And I will go 1-1, like you've done on the last one, Sam. What do you reckon?
I can't even think. Well, it was Sunderland they beat, wasn't it, Huddersfield? And then it was a point off Swansea, wasn't it? Yeah. I can't go against the majority of the comments there. What have you gone for there, Ben? Sorry?
1-1.
Yeah, it's going to be 1-1, isn't it? Oh, Bristol City. Why do they do this to me? Right. Bristol City going to win, but I can't. I'll go 1-0 Bristol City.
1-0 Bristol City. And you're first up with league leaders Leicester, home to 0 away wins so far. Plymouth.
I mean, I'd love to come up with something, to...
Where's your curveball, Sam? You've always
got one. We're going to wait. Well, there's something on it now, isn't there? We're playing head-to-head here. I can't just throw in stuff willy-nilly. But I'm going to go 5 goals.
Willy-nilly.
The entertainers. Yeah, Leicester going to have a go here as well. Plymouth are going to be open. 3-2 to the Foxes.
I love that. I was going to say something similar. There we go. Hang on. Let me write this down. Right. What do you say? 3-2, Sam. I'm going to back Leicester. Sorry, Argyle. I always back Argyle at home and not away from home. Let's go for a nice straightforward. Plymouth will score, though, won't they? I'll go 2-1. Leicester 2, Plymouth 1. And for goodness sake, that means I've got to do Middlesbrough versus Ipswich first. I said on another platform, Sam, a Borough podcast I was on earlier, that so Ipswich score 58% of their goals in the first half. Middlesbrough score 67% of theirs in the second half. So I'm going to go for Ipswich to take the lead, the game to be drawn. I'm going to go Desmond, Middlesbrough 2, Ipswich 2. You're smiling, Sam.
No, I was just thinking about some of the stats I read pre-Middlesbrough game the other week. I think there'd been 5 goals in their first halves before that Preston victory. And I think there'd been 14 goals at the Riverside at that point prior to kickoff, which was the fewest in the Championship. So the supporters there have not been filled with entertainment, and the first halves have been pretty goal-free environments. Here, I think that will change. And it is surprising because I think the last few performances of Middlesbrough, they're pretty good fun, you know. There's not many defensive bones in the bodies of those 11 that Michael Carrick's putting out there, and hence why they're getting a few goals in their games now. And I think that will continue here. I just have got a thing for Ipswich at the moment, haven't I, in a big way. I think Middlesbrough will score. Ipswich invariably concede. That's an understatement. What is it, 7 or 8 on the spin when they haven't got the clean sheet? I think they'll win, and I think they'll win relatively comfortably 3-1 to Ipswich.
I love that, Sam. Now, finish off the job. You've got Norwich versus Preston.
We've still got 2 to go, haven't we?
Yeah, Norwich Preston, as in finish off the job of fun predictions if you're an Ipswich fan listening. Come on, Sam.
Well,
Ipswich striker Sam Parkin.
I can't say all that filth about Preston 15, 20 minutes ago.
This filth?
And then
you don't even work here.
And then contradict myself. So this will be exactly
you
what
printed
played
it
out.
off for me.
Yeah, it's exactly what played out at Carrow Road a couple of weeks ago against QPR. It's Norwich 1, Preston North End 0.
Yeah, I'm gonna back Norwich as well, actually. What did you say? 1-0, Sam?
Yep.
I will go 2-0 to Norwich. Picked up a few wins lately, and this time next week, Sam, we're going to be talking about the East Anglian derby, which I'm already very nervous even thinking.
I'll tell you about me getting shouted out outside Pizza Express after we went down to a 1-0
Get it in the questions.
When I was there, yeah.
Get it in the questions later.
Sam,
it was
a low point that was.
QPR versus Hull. It's me first, and I've got to call them improving QPR. Back-to-back wins, which does a hell of a turn, doesn't it, when you're struggling down at the bottom there. I think I don't know what percentage of their points have been scored in the last 2 games, but plenty. I do like Hull, Sam. So I won't back Rangers to win. I'll go down the middle. QPR 0, Hull 0. I haven't had a 0-0 yet, so let's throw one in there. What are you saying for Rangers?
Yeah, we've tended to agree today, haven't we, on a lot of the results, and I'm going to have to do the same here. But I'm optimistic there'll be goals. I'm going to go for a share of 4, 2-2.
Ooh, love that. And Billy Bob Bulldogs, which would be easy for me to fall over, agrees with you in the chat, Sam. And you are first up with the caretaker derby. Wayne Carlisle vs Alan Sheehan. It's Rotherham versus Swansea.
Yeah, I think Rotherham could do a job here. I think this could be tight, maybe won by a set piece. I'm going to back Rotherham again, as I did last week, and they got the point, didn't they, last time out? I'm going to go slight curveball. I'm going to go Rotherham 1-0.
Rotherham for the win. I'm not backing against Rotherham because Swansea don't have a boss, and I like Rotherham at home. I might come down the middle on this one, Sam, like a few have in the chat there. We'll put big Mallies up. I'll go 1-1. Rotherham 1, Swansea 1. And we'll move on to our player to watch, who is playing in Stoke versus Sheffield Wednesday, Bailey Cadamarteri. Stoke are in a bit of a mess, Sam. Can Wednesday go and grab something from there? Now, let's channel my inner Championship logic, which means I always get Stoke wrong. I'm thinking about backing against them. So that means I should back Stoke because I always get them wrong. So I'm going to back Stoke. We'll go for Cadamarteri to score, and we'll go Stoke to win 2-1.
Yeah, that's the result I've got down. So I will change just
lovely
tactically. I'll go for a 1-0 Stoke victory, and I think we're in the territory of must win almost for Alex Neil. Would you agree?
Well, 3-game week, but I'm not going to make judgments on when managers get fired. You'd think he'd have the week, wouldn't you? But I know what you're saying in terms of the influence of a poor result. Look at that. Stoke have been in a bit of a mess for how many years now? I totally agree with that. What did you say, Stam? Sorry, was it 2?
I'll go for the 1-0.
1-0 Stoke. And let's round this out with our mouth-watering matchup. And you're up first, Sam, for Watford versus Saints.
I thought we'd done this, but we haven't. And it's going to be entertaining again. It's going to be tightly contested, and it's going to be 2-2 at Vicarage Road.
2-2 at Vicarage Road. So Ipswich have got Watford on Tuesday. So what do I really want to happen? I think Watford might win. I'm going to go Watford. Let's go silly. I haven't had a big score, have I? Watford 3, Southampton 2. How about that? Thank you, everybody, for joining in the predictions. We've been clipping this one out, Sam, and putting it out on Fridays. So if you're watching on Friday as well, just watching the clip, get your predictions in the comments. Stick all 12 of them in. And Sam Parkin is going to tell us, I don't actually know the answer to this. What were the results last week, Mr. P?
I'll take you through it briefly. Only one on the nose. Only one on the nose. That was me. Leeds 3, Middlesbrough 2. To give me the 3 points. It's giving me 3 points, yeah. And I got Ipswich, bang on. You seem to suggest I got Sheffield Wednesday against Blackburn as well in terms of the result. So, and I got Southampton result and I got the Ipswich result, which gave me a grand total of 3, 4, 5, 6. And you got the result correct in Millwall and Plymouth. So, no, sorry, I've got it down as 5-2. So let's take that. Forget what I just said. 5-2 to me. You were 10-4 up last week. That is a 3-point swing, leaving the scores at Benjamin Bloom 12. My good self 9.
I didn't realise you were aggregating it all. This is going to be carnage, isn't it, throughout the season? Let us know how many you score in the chat. Give yourself 3 points if you get the result correct. Give yourself 1 point if you get the outcome correct. And it's time for more competition between myself and Sam. It's time for the week that was. Before we go to the last segment, get your questions lined up for Sam for us to finish on. Stick a Q before him and a question mark sign afterwards. Sam, in the week that was, I think Fev is in the chat. There he is. 11-6 you are winning. It's a bit of a massacre, to be honest. Then we need to give a big thanks, as always, to @Fev's Football. He's in the chat there, Dave. Go and give him a follow on Twitter. He comes up with our questions each and every week. Sam, I'm nominating that you have to answer first this week because I was really disadvantaged by answering second last week. Do you agree with that?
Okay, mate, no problem.
So I'm going to bring up this question, which I promise I have not read. I love the title of this as well. This week's quiz titled, Who Gives a Shirt? A series of higher or lower questions from Saturday's games, all based on adding up the shirt numbers of one team's starting 11 versus their opponents. 5 fixtures each. For example, Bristol City versus Norwich. Bristol City 1-5-1 to Norwich 2-2-1. Do you understand, Sam?
Yeah, I understand.
Right. So first of all, we need higher or lower shirt numbers. West Brom versus Leicester. Who is higher? Who is lower?
I'm just thinking like the egos in maybe the dressing rooms, weird superstitions. Leicester higher.
Excuse me while I mute myself. You are correct. Leicester higher. Moving on. Hull versus Watford. Who's higher? Who's lower?
There must be some funky numbers at Watford. Watford.
Hull 197. Watford 183. Tough luck. Ipswich versus Coventry.
I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to this at all, but I don't know. Are you any good with shirt numbers? I mean, that is just something that I pay zero attention to.
Awful.
So I will go for cusp of a late in the window signings. I'll go for Coventry to be higher.
What was your favourite number to wear, quickly?
Mate, I'd love to have worn number 10, but obviously I got, labelled as a 9 punter quite early in my career. So I was at the 9 dog, didn't I? I like the 19, actually. I had the 19 at a couple of clubs.
Who did you say higher? Sorry, Ipswich,
Coventry, please.
You are correct by miles, actually. 164 Ipswich, 204 Coventry. So that's 2 out of 3. In the words of Meatloaf, ain't bad. Leeds Borough. Oh, this one's hard. Christ.
Leeds Borough. Leeds bigger squad? Surely. I'm going to go Leeds with my instinct.
Leeds 156. Borough 155.
Oh, get in.
well done. 3 out of 4. Why are you so good at this? It's irritating. Millwall versus Sunderland. Last one.
Gotta be Sunderland.
No. Millwall 208. Sunderland 186.
Wow.
Have I got the other 5 games then?
You have, mate. Yeah. So we kick off then. So 3 out of 5, was it?
1, 2, 3. Yes, you did.
Okay. You have got Plymouth v Stoke.
Plymouth v Stoke. Surely after all Stoke's new signings, Stoke's number is higher.
Correct. Yeah. 171 to 152.
Get in.
Sheffield Wednesday against Blackburn. You're on the board.
I think Blackburn have a few youngsters in that are going to elevate that number. Blackburn higher.
Incorrect. Wednesday 140 to Blackburn's 135. God. Southampton against Cardiff City.
Cardiff higher.
Bang on, mate. Yeah. 205 to 178.
We're in the game.
And Swansea City against Huddersfield.
Swansea City, Huddersfield. We've lost Sam temporarily, so I will procrastinate with my answer here. Can you still hear me or see me, Sam? I don't know where he's gone. Swansea City versus Huddersfield. How long can I procrastinate with the answer for before Mr. Parkin does indeed return, which we hope indeed he does. Dave is here, actually. Dave, I'll go for Huddersfield, Dave, and I'll let you come back with the answer. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping here. Follow me, obviously, on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. Follow Sam at Sammy Parkin _ and hopefully we can get the main man back who has disappeared. Correct. Dave, what is the next question? I can get the win here with this one. Sing us a song, Ben, while we were waiting. Get your questions in, guys. We'll go to the questions segment soon and we'll get Dave to ask Sam's last question. Get your questions in ready for the last segment. Preston versus QPR. I am going to go with Preston, Dave. Get your questions in for the last segment. Hopefully, Parkin is going to return at some point and get back in for the win. Who was the most numbers there, Fev, in the chat? Let's see how quickly he can type. Some questions are indeed coming in here. Hopefully, Sam's internet or laptop or whatever that has gone down is going to be fixed. Yes! Champions League there. I have got the victory there. So I've won that one 4-3. Oh, there would have been a bonus sudden death with there. Absolutely tremendous. 4-3 for the win there. What was the score, Fev, going into this? It was 11-6 to Sam. So that has pulled us back closer to 11-7, which is, I think, as close as I've been for a fair few weeks. Bruce Forsyth impression. I would have been on it, but I've been thrown by Sam's tech going down and him disappearing. Let's get into the questions then. Get your questions in. I will answer as many as I can, and hopefully we'll get Sam back for one or two at the end. Get your questions in now to round out this week's podcast. And as if by magic. Sam's back, and he is not going to believe that I went on with Dave Bev asking the questions. There is evidence of this.
Get in.
This one for 3. Welcome back. I'm putting that up. Sorry. Sam, can you recommend a good broadband ISP? You've got to take that Bant, haven't you? Sam's internet about as reliable as our attack. He's getting buried in the...
Not the internet, my laptop, I'm afraid.
Oh, your
Sorry,
laptop.
I was completely...
Will Sam's disappearance be next, Hamza asking next week's meltdown moment? Absolutely, after the tiles fell off.
Completely oblivious to the battery on my laptop.
Oh, it's the battery. Okay, there you go.
Very, very sorry.
That's all right. I muddled on through quite embarrassingly. Vindaloo, which of the defunct stadiums, Sam, do you miss the most? You'd have played in a lot of these, won't you? Highfield Road. Mine's Main Road, Sam. I love that. Love that stadium. What say you?
What a brilliant question. I mean, there's something that wants me to say Brentford, but I hated playing. I hated playing at Brentford so much. I played at Filbert Street a couple of times.
Oh, nice.
Which was really good. I think I scored in the reserves there. Yeah. So maybe I'd need a little bit more time on that one, but maybe I'll go for Filbert Street for the purposes of this podcast tonight.
Question for Ben: do you think opponents are disrespecting Ipswich a bit? They aren't shutting down key patterns. No, I don't think they are. We've seen a fair few teams park the bus now. So what I do think, though, Dave, to the question, I do think they're going to get wiser to it in the second half of the season. There's a lot more data and a lot more availability of information. Sam, where does Billy Sharp end up in January? Would he fit in at ours? Can you see him back in the Championship?
I could do. Yeah, I could see someone taking a punt on him. I think you want someone that can be mobile at the top for QPR. I think because you're going to have Willock and Chair coming towards the ball so often. And yeah, there would be a chain of thought to say that Lyndon Dykes, the profile of him is the right type of focal point for QPR to play into, and those two play off. I'd prefer someone to have their shirt number to show for those two. Do you know what I mean? I want them to be seeing the back of a front man who can run towards the opposition's goal and stretch the play. And yes, people would say that Sinclair Armstrong could mature into that player. I don't think at the moment he's particularly ready to play that week in, week out. So I'd like someone with a bit more mobility if they are going to go into the market for a front man. But definitely Sharp will end up somewhere, won't he? Probably in the second tier.
Yeah. Billy and Colin are asking about Ipswich and Norwich. I'm afraid, lads, you're not getting anything on Ipswich Norwich until next week's show, when that will no doubt be the mouthwatering matchup by my demands. Are all 3 Premier League teams going back up? I mean, it will be boring, but they should do, given the budgets and the squad, shouldn't they? With the goals and assists of Smodic and the Leeds front four, could it be the highest scoring match of the season? What is the highest scoring match of the season? We had a 6-2 Plymouth Norwich, didn't we? Has anyone? Norwich were in a 4-4 as well with Southampton, weren't they? I mean, we had more than. Someone will tell me in the chat. More than 8 goals in a game yet? I don't think we have, but no, it's not going to be 8. Right. Is it okay to celebrate a goal against your old club as a player? It's a hard yes for me, Sam. I'm more offended by people going, "Oh, look at me, I'm not celebrating. Look at me not celebrating." Hate that. Do you score against your old clubs? What did you do?
Can't remember scoring too many times against old clubs. I remember scoring against Northampton for Swindon. This is like going back to the early stages of my career. And I'd had such a miserable time at Northampton that year that I went for it full blast, even like a few gesticulations after the final whistle, I think, in their direction. So I went for it. I mean, the ones that stick out to me, not my former club, but obviously
so disrespectful, Sam.
I scored quite a few against QPR, which was obviously the team that I support. So that was a weird emotion, but one that I really enjoyed. I don't know why. Enjoyed is wrong.
You scored at Loftus Road then?
I scored at Loftus Road for Ipswich, didn't I? But I just mean, I just probably wanted to score more in that fixture because I wanted to pitch up at QPR. That's probably the long and short of it. And I thought this was a game, if I did well, consistently, then Ian Holloway or someone would sign me, which never happened. But I can't think in any circumstances really, unless you're like, I'm thinking like Paolo Maldini, schooled at a club, progress to the first team, play 400-500 games, and then you go somewhere in your final year for your final paycheck, and then you play against AC Milan. In that circumstances, then maybe you don't celebrate. Do you know what I mean? But I think it has to be that club history running through your veins for a number of years for it ever to be acceptable. Otherwise, it's just red.
And do one thing or the other. If you score, either celebrate or don't celebrate. Don't signal that you're not celebrating, because I'm sorry, that is well, there's a word for that, and I won't say it. Which injured player is costing his team the most? But I don't know why, but Daryl DK sprung to mind there. That probably Big Val might not have lost his job at West Brom if he'd had him fit, and they can't play a striker. I can't think of a better answer than that, Sam. Can you?
Well, topically, Matt Phillips is out now, isn't he? For a period, I think, with a hamstring injury, quite a severe hamstring injury, and he's been obviously very, very good, I think, this season. I'm not sure because he's an unknown quantity in terms of the club, but Ross Stewart at Southampton still being troubled, I think, by a niggle in the in his return from that injury. So he's someone that's been missed. Norwich, Sargent. There you go.
That's a great answer.
I knew I'd get it. Maybe, arguably their most important player.
And Anir agrees with you as well. A poor crystal ball question. Who is Swansea bringing in? I think it'll be Eustace or Nathan Jones. I'm going to have Sam's back here. He's not going to answer about Eustace for obvious reasons. But what about Nathan Jones going to Swansea, Sam? I quite like that, to be honest.
Yeah, like in my head, I just saw him jumping into the stand, and I knew it was Wales.
That was at Swansea, wasn't it?
It was at Swansea.
Yeah.
I had to, because, excuse my ignorance, but I wasn't sure which club his affiliation was with, but it's very much with Cardiff. So if he pitches up at Swansea, that would be a sensational story. And I know anything can happen in football, but that is some rivalry between those two. So I can't see that happening, even though to just join the dots or whatever the terminology is, Alan Sheehan, currently interim charge at Swansea. Nathan Jones is first team assistant at Luton. So people are obviously doing the sums and coming up with the answer, but I could not see that happening, given I know how passionate that derby is.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Finally, we get asked this a lot, Sam, don't we? Biggest club currently in the Championship. I always say Sunderland, Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday. I think in terms of history and fan base. Would you agree? Yeah,
nestled in just behind QPR. Yeah. Top London club, 1992, 93. I couldn't. Sunderland's an enormous club, but do you not go for the two Yorkshire clubs there? Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds.
I always just Sunderland are packing 40,000 in every single week, and it's mad up there, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you think of the cup final, don't you? You think of the Premier League years with Quinn and Phillips. Yeah, there's history there as well. Sorry, I was a bit dismissive there because I'm just, I'm bleary-eyed by the bleary-eyed. Is that even a phrase? Sheffield Wednesday, the 90s, and what have you. Yeah. That really stands out to me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week for the latest Championship Check-In podcast. We're going to be back on Thursday night. Remember, it's a 3-game week, so we can talk to you a lot about what went on in midweek. We'll focus mainly on that and a certain game that is quite meaningful to me that's going to be happening on the Saturday as well. Last word from you, Sam?
Sorry that I wasn't keeping tabs on my battery level. Won't happen again.
No problem. About the greatest division in the world this time next week.